Hi everybody, Zach again, newtotorah.com, coming in, making a video for you today. I want to start off with a Bible verse. We're going to go to one of my favorites. You guys who have been on the channel for a while know this verse and know it well. Deuteronomy 30, verse 1, and it shall come to pass, when all these things come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, you shall call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord thy God has driven thee. And you shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command you this day, you and your children with all your heart and with all your soul. And then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon you, and will return and gather you from all the nations where the Lord thy God has scattered you. Okay, now that verse, many of you are familiar with it, those three verses, and it continues on. It's an amazing prophecy of what will happen. He says, you will be driven into the nations for your disobedience, but one day you will begin to obey, and I will bring you back. And there are some people out there who mistakenly think that this is the Jewish return to the land, and that is part of it, for sure, no doubt about it, but there are rabbis in Israel, people who are religious authority figures who understand that the lost 10 tribes of Israel, the northern kingdom, has not yet returned and that they are still out in the world. There are Jewish rabbis, rabbinical authorities who believe that. Now, keep that in mind. The Adventures of Rabbi Harvey. The Adventures of Rabbi, a graphic novel of Jewish wisdom and wit in the Wild West. My son is enjoying reading this book. It's fun. My oldest is reading it to my youngest. He's very much enjoying that book. So this last Sukkot, I had a friend who came and gave me a stack of books from this organization. Here are a few of them. This one here, I'm really looking forward to reading that with probably my youngest. And my oldest will probably enjoy it too. The 6-Day Hero, probably about the 6-Day War, I'm assuming. Mitzvah and the Mutt, Zlateth the Goat, and other stories. And, it's just a collection of books. And so supposedly there's an organization out there called PJ Our Way or PJ Library, depending on your child's age bracket, and they will send you free books. Free books. Now, they're probably really not going to like this video. And I'm not trying to cause trouble for them. I hope that they're blessed, and I think that they provide an amazing service and definitely amazing books. But it seems that they told a woman told me about this, and I accepted the books. I was very grateful, and she said, "Hey, you should sign up." And so I went to sign up. I tried to sign up and was immediately hit with a brick wall because they wanted to know who I was, and if indeed I belonged to a synagogue. Because there are people, I guess, assuming that are signing up for this service, especially in my area, who are not Jewish, do not belong to a Jewish synagogue, and official Jewish synagogue, and they don't want to provide books for those. It's a service, it's a program for Jews and Jews only. So, I tried to explain that, we keep the Shabbat, we keep the feast days. I even sent a picture of our group picture of our recent Sukkot, our Feast of Tabernacles. There is no synagogue here where I live. It's very remote, and so the people do home fellowships. But that wasn't enough. I was denied. I got an email back and I was denied saying, "I'm sorry, at this time we cannot allow you into our program." They wanted to know who my rabbi was or who my synagogue I belonged to, all these things. And I didn't have an answer for that because I really don't. I just wanted to take part in their program and allow my children to, who are named Joshua and Caleb, to participate in their program and get these wonderful books. So the reality is there are so many people moving into the Ozarks who are Hebrew roots, Torah observant. And someone asked me this past Sukkot, how many think are really here now? And I told them, I said, I have no doubt in my mind that there are in the tens of thousands of Torah observant, Hebrew roots, Messianic, whatever name or label you want to give them, who are here now in the Ozarks. And there are more moving all the time. In fact, I was just talking to someone on the phone, And they told me that there's a group of people from a fellowship in South Carolina who are getting ready to come out this way and are looking for land. And they don't know who I am, I don't think, or maybe they do. I don't think they do. And then there was another friend of that person who said that they were looking for a place nearby to where their mother was, and they settled it. They just found a place in my county. And I don't know if they know who I am either. And so people have come up to me and said, Zach, what are you look at the amazing thing you're doing in the Ozarks. And they're like, it's not me. There are people who are moving here who have no idea who I am, no idea. I've never heard of me or any other personality or ministry that's in my area. They're being led by the Father here. This is what the Father's doing. And then it brings me back to that prophecy by Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom. She, I believe, wrote the book The Hiding Place, very popular book. Many of you have probably read it. And I believe she was someone who was connected with the Holocaust. She was shielding or hiding people. Their household was hiding Jews who were trying to escape the Holocaust. And she was flying over. I mean, a person who played a very important role in the Holocaust and saving many people. She was flying over the Ozarks one year, I believe back in the 1980s. And the Father gave her a vision that in the last days, the Ozarks would be a refuge for his people. And books were written about it. There's lots of information. If you just search for Corrie ten Boom Prophecy Ozarks, you can find all kinds of information about it, articles and books and things like that that go into more detail about that. It's amazing what's happening in these last days. And it's so much so that I can't get, I don't know what direction I want to go here. I have been told that in Israel, there are rabbinical authorities, there are rabbis who have been made known about what's happening in the Ozarks. And they're aware of this prophecy. They're aware of what Scripture says in Ezekiel and in Jeremiah and in Isaiah, that there will come a day when people out of the Gentiles will come, and they will be regathered into the land. The lost 10 tribes, the northern kingdom of Israel will come back, and they're asking themselves, is this thing that's going on in the Ozarks part of that? They're taking notice of the Ozarks specifically. I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know prophecy. And I've said before in my videos, hindsight of prophecy is always 20/20. But it always brings me back to that parable of the prodigal son given by Yeshua in the book of Luke, Luke chapter 15. In the book of Luke chapter 15, we have this parable that's given of the prodigal son. And it's the younger son, okay, who goes out and he takes his inheritance and he squanders it in a faraway land of the nations, a land of the Gentiles. And he realizes what he's done. He wakes up. It says in verse 17 that he came to his senses and he realized what he was eating amongst the pigs. He's eating amongst the pigs. He comes to his senses and he says, even a servant in my father's house is in a better place than I am here. And I want to go home. I want to go home. And ladies and gentlemen, that's where we find ourselves here in the Ozarks and many other places too. You're looking around, we've discovered Torah, we've discovered the words of Moses and how our Messiah, Yeshua, kept referring over and over and over again back to Moses. And Moses spoke of the one that would come that would be likened unto him. And we are taking all of this in and we realize, there's so many things that are bacon in our country today. So many things that are pork, and we're waking up amongst the pigs. And in the Ozarks especially, it's insane to me that the sports icon of this area, Northwest Arkansas, Ozarks, and much of the Ozarks is the pig, the hogs. It's the Northwest Arkansas Razorbacks from the University of Arkansas. It's the Razor. Everywhere you go in this area, Northwest Arkansas, you see a pig. It's on every billboard. It's like on every storefront, go hogs, go hogs. Everything is about go hogs. And here we have this gigantic group of people who are forming here in the Ozarks, who are trying to keep Torah, who are trying to learn how to fellowship, who are trying to learn how to keep the feast, who are trying to learn how to keep Shabbat. They're trying to amend their diet according to what Moses said in Leviticus 11. And we're in the land of the pig. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. I'm asking. You tell me. Leave a comment below. I want to know, is that a coincidence that we're waking up in the land actually of the pig, where the pig is everywhere around us, and we're going, oh, I've got to get home. I've got to get back to my father. I want to go back to the land. And the rabbis in Israel are taking notice of this. And the Jews, Judah, who is here, they don't recognize the Joseph that's standing right before them. Genesis, Judah comes before Joseph, who is in charge of all of Egypt there, and he doesn't recognize his younger brother. Now, back to the parable of the prodigal son. The younger brother comes home, and the father is ecstatic that his son that he thought was dead, that was dead to him because he went against his father's commandments, the father had written him off. He comes home with a repentant heart because he knows it's good to be in the father's house. And so the father celebrates. He slaughters the fatted calf. He throws a party. And the older brother, who comes in from the field, is not happy that his father's throwing a gigantic party for the son who was not responsible. Meanwhile, he's tried to be responsible, bringing us back to Genesis chapter 49, where it talks about from between, the scepter will never depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet. Judah will always have the scepter. He's always head of the family, and he will always have the law and the Torah to preserve it. And that's what's happened throughout the centuries. It's been the Jews who have preserved the law, who has preserved the Torah for this time, so that it could be presented back to the nations and the younger brother could come home. The parable of the prodigal son, you look at it with completely new lenses. Man, I don't know. I mean, again, hindsight of prophecy is always 20/20. But what are we seeing here? I don't know. But I'm paying attention. And there is our brother Judah here, and they don't understand what's happening, and they don't recognize what I believe is the Joseph right in front of them. It's their brother, the brother that was cast out into the nations and was forgotten, who was written off by the father, divorced, and here we are. We're back. We want to be part of the land again. We want to come home to the family, just like prophecy said. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah chapter 11, it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from the Hamath and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign, a sign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. And the envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. And Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. What is that? It's Judah and Joseph. Ephraim was the son of Joseph. There's a conflict here right now. It's the older brother and the younger brother. The older brother who was true, who stayed in the house, who preserved the Torah, who was the head of the family, the scepter will not depart, it says. And then the younger brother, who went and squandered his inheritance, but realized when he was amongst the pigs that it would be better to be a servant in the father's house, and comes home, and the father rejoices. That's what we have here, I believe. Time will tell. I may be completely wrong. I may be completely off my rocker. But I tried to join this organization this week for my kids, and didn't work out. They didn't know what to do with me, just like I believe is written in prophecy. They don't know what to do with us. But the good news is the envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. Right now, I envy my brother Judah because he gets access to amazing things and programs and things that we have a heartfelt desire for. But that's going to end one day. I believe it's going to end one day. And they won't vex Ephraim. I tell a story. I once had a rabbi on Twitter tell me that what I was doing was worse than what the Nazis did in World War II, because I'm stealing, the Torah. I'm not stealing it. I just want to be a part of it. I just want to be in the family. I want to come back home. And I had to tell this rabbi that I love him, that he's my brother, and he didn't recognize me, just like Judah didn't recognize Joseph. Interesting times we live in. It's not just in the Ozarks. It's throughout the country. I hear about large groups in Indiana, Tennessee, the Appalachians, South Carolina, different parts, Oregon, Washington, different parts of the country. There are people who are grouping together, people who are like-minded in the Torah, and their willingness to want to follow it and understand that the Messiah was here to bring back the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Matthew chapter 15, verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. We'll leave it at that. Go home, read your Bible. Thanks.